Okay, ברוכים הבאים, ערב טוב, או בוקר טוב, או צהריים טובים, I don't know where everybody is. Imagine somewhere in Israel, somewhere abroad. This webinar has two parts. And if you've been in the last few weeks, you're already used to this mode of teaching. In the first part, you'll participate in a staged conversation between two Hebrew speakers, where your job is to respond to my cues out loud. Make sure you're speaking out loud. In the first part, there will be no visuals, and we want to do that because we want you to exercise the listening and speaking muscles, because those are what you're ultimately going to be using when you speak, when you try to communicate with Israelis. So trust your sense of hearing. In the second part, we will have a look at the words from the conversation. Ready? Hitchalnu. Let's get started. Okay. While doing the dishes after lunch one day, a woman named Miri finds that her sink is clogged again. In frustration, she calls out, "Ach, hakshivu v'chizru." Listen and repeat. Oof. She says, "Ach, again." Say it for her. Oof, od pam. She could also say, "Oof, shuv." Again, there's blockage in the sink. Just listen. Od pam stima bakior. Which part of that do you think means blockage? Stima. Stima. Here is blockage in the sink. Hakshivu v'chizru. Listen and repeat. Hakshivu v'chizru. Stima bakior. Kior. Bakior. She calls out, again, blockage in the sink. Od pam, stima bakior. Her husband, Asaf, is drying the dishes. She turns to him and says, "What will we do?" Hakshivu v'chizru. Ma na'aseh? Na'aseh. Anachnu na'aseh. What will we do? Continue speaking for her. Ma na'aseh? Asaf replies, "We'll call hakshivu v'chizru. Nitkasher. Nitkasher. Anachnu nitkasher. Nitkasher le. We'll call Benny the handyman. Hakshivu v'chizru. Nitkasher leBenny hashiputznik." Shiputznik. Nik. Shiputz. Shiputznik. Miri says, "Again, the sink is clogged." Od pam stima bakior. What will we do? Ma na'aseh? Asaf says, "We'll call Benny the handyman." Nitkasher leBenny hashiputznik. There's no need to say anachnu nitkasher. You could say it, but there's no need, because ne at the beginning of nitkasher means we. Miri says, "Who's that?" Mize. Wiping a dish dry, Asaf says, "A friend of a friend." חבר של חבר. Miri says, but we don't need a plumber. She says, but we don't need a plumber. הקשיבו וחזרו. אבל לא צריך אינסטלטור? אינסטלטור. לטור. Instalator. There is a proper Hebrew word for plumber, shravrav, but most Israelis use instalator, a word borrowed from European languages. I like to think of it as installator, kind of like Terminator. Say it again. Instalator. Asaf says, we don't need a plumber. Or no, he doesn't, no, mixing it up. We don't need a plumber. לא צריך אינסטלטור. He could say, אנחנו לא צריכים, but he simply says, לא צריך אינסטלטור. Benny the handyman Benny השיפוצניק he knows הוא יודע to take care of לטפל ב He knows how to take care of everything. The word for how is implied. הוא יודע לטפל בהכל. בהכל. הכל. Asaf calls Benny and then goes out for a work meeting, leaving Miri and the kids at home. When Benny arrives, he walks in the door and says to Miri, "Hello, where's the blockage?" Shalom, איפה הסתימה? Miri shows him to the sink, where he proceeds to work. Do you know the Hebrew word for electricity? Chashmal. Chashmal. Benny says to Miri, we need to disconnect the power, or electricity. הקשיבו וחזרו. צריך לנתק את החשמל. לנתק. נתק. לנתק. לנתק את החשמל. Puzzled, Miri says, disconnect the power? לנתק את החשמל? But the problem, אבל הבעיה, the problem is in the sink. הבעיה בכיור. Benny השיפוצניק replies, you guys have a problem. יש לכם בעיה. יש לכם. לכם. Also with the power. גם עם החשמל. I need to disconnect it. I is implied. צריך לנתק אותו. לנתק אותו. He points upwards and says to Miri, don't you see? את לא רואה that the light bulb, הקשיבו וחזרו, שהנורה, נורה. Don't you see that the light bulb is burnt out? הקשיבו וחזרו. את לא רואה שהנורה שרופה? שרופה. שרופה. How do you say a burnt out light bulb? נורה שרופה. Benny says, you don't see that the light bulb is burnt out? את לא רואה שהנורה שרופה? I need to disconnect the power. צריך לנתק את החשמל. Hesitantly, Miri replies, okay. טוב. Benny says, just a moment. רק רגע. I'm bringing. אני מביא. מביא. I'm bringing the drill from the car. הקשיבו וחזרו. אני מביא את המקדחה מהאוטו. מקדחה. 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 How does Benny tell Miri that he's bringing the drill? אני מביא את המקדחה. Miri cries out, the drill? את המקדחה? Do you know the Hebrew word for a hole? As in a hole like this? Chor. Benny says, yes, I need to drill a hole. הקשיבו וחזרו. כן, צריך לקדוח חור. לקדוח. לקדוח. How do you say to drill a hole? לקדוח חור. Benny says, I need to drill a hole. צריך לקדוח חור. In order to. כדי. In order to pass the cable. הקשיבו וחזרו. כדי להעביר את הכבל. להעביר. העביר. להעביר. To pass the cable. הקשיבו וחזרו. להעביר את הכבל. כבל. הכבל. Miri asks him, why do you need a drill? You is understood. למה צריך מקדחה? Benny replies, I need to drill a hole. צריך לקדוח חור in order to pass the cable. כדי להעביר את הכבל. You don't see that the light bulb is burnt out? את לא רואה שהנורה שרופה? Benny goes out to get the drill, and on the way back, he shuts off the power. Now, Miri's son calls out from his room, "Who disconnected the power?" Try to say it for him. מי ניתק את החשמל? ניתק. Benny comes back and proceeds to drill, likdoach. Miri's daughter comes out from her room and says, "He's drilling." Try to say it. הוא קודח. He's drilling a hole in my head, from the noise. הקשיבו וחזרו. הוא קודח לי חור בראש. חור בראש. לי. הוא קודח לי חור בראש. Once Benny has finished with the drilling and the cable, he says to Miri, "Okay, I've passed the cable." Try to say it for him. טוב, העברתי את הכבל. העברתי. אני העברתי. I drilled a hole. קדחתי חור. And I passed the cable. והעברתי את הכבל. Now a bit of putty. הקשיבו וחזרו. עכשיו קצת שפכטל. שפכטל. A bit of putty. קצת שפכטל. A bit of paint or color. קצת צבע. צבע. And we're all done. הקשיבו וחזרו. וגמרנו. גמרנו. A bit of putty, a bit of paint. קצת שפכטל, קצת צבע. And we're all done. וגמרנו. Let's review. How did Miri say to Asaf, "We have blockage in the sink"? יש לנו סתימה בכיור. יש לנו סתימה בכיור. Asaf said to her, "We don't need a plumber." לא צריך אינסטלטור. Benny the handyman. Benny השיפוצניק. He knows how to take care of everything. יודע לטפל בהכל. Besides, חוץ מזה, he's cheaper. הוא יותר זול. As Benny gets up to leave, he says to Miri, 1,000 shekels, please. אלף שקל, בבקשה. If you said אלף שקלים, you would be right. But אלף shekel is the more casual way of saying it. Miri is taken aback by the bill. She says, 1,000 shekels? אלף shekel? Benny says to her, ma'am, גברת, I worked, עבדתי, I worked half a day. עבדתי חצי יום. חצי יום. I renovated, הקשיבו וחזרו. שיפצתי, אני שיפצתי. איך אומרים to renovate? לשפץ. Benny says, I renovated שיפצתי I renovated your house for you. הקשיבו וחזרו. שיפצתי לכם את הבית. לכם את הבית. Benny says, I renovated your house for you. שיפצתי לכם את הבית. Do you remember what we call a drill in Hebrew? מקדחה. Miri's daughter said, he's drilling a hole in my head, or he's drilling for me a hole in the head. הוא קודח לי חור בראש. What's the word for handyman? שיפוצניק. How about renovation? שיפוץ. And renovations? שיפוצים. Benny says to Miri, you came out on the cheap end. הקשיבו וחזרו. יצאתם בזול. בזול. He assures her, you came out on the cheap end. יצאתם בזול. Okay, so that was the end. That's the end of the speaking and listening portion. Now I'm going to open up the visual. So now, if you'd like to take notes, you're more than welcome to. השיפוצניק. איך אומרים blockage? סתימה. ואיך אומרים a sink? כיור. You may recognize this from the Torah portion coming up in a few weeks. where the kiyor is one of the elements of the tabernacle, of the Mishkan. Plumber. Instalator או שרברב. To disconnect. לנתק. This one is going to be useful in next week's webinar where we delve into the phone directory. Electricity. Chashmal. And here, chashmal appears in the Bible. It appears in the book of Yechezkel, where it doesn't refer to electricity as we know it, but it does refer to something shiny, maybe amber, not clear. A burnt out light bulb. Nura srufa. And here you might recognize the word nur in nura, which also is related to ner, a candle. Nur is like a fire. In Arabic, it means fire. And nura is a light bulb. Srufa, like lisrof is to burn. Srufa is burnt. A drill. Makdecha. To drill a hole. Likdoach chor. To pass something, to transfer. Lehaavir. You might recognize the root here, Ain Bet Resh, like la'avor is to pass by something. Like ani over et hamakolet, I'm passing by the grocery store. Lehaavir. Putty. Spachtel. And this also refers to the tool used to paste on the putty. To renovate. Leshapetz. And renovations are שיפוצים. Now, this is some bonus material, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing now, but especially because the print is a little small. But this is something that you will find in the review material, which you will get a link to by email in the next couple of days. This is something you can print if you'd like. We have what things that need fixing, a glossary of all kinds of useful terms like mechunat kvisa, washing machine, mazgan, air conditioning, hasaka, heating, especially in the winter, dud shemesh, a solar water heater, kvalim, cable TV, like kabel is a cable, whom to call, there's the shiputznik, there's the instalator. And if you need other things like electrician, there's chashmelai, a technician, a technai, a locksmith, manulan, a lawyer, orech din, sometimes useful to have a lawyer, handy terms like emergency, חירום, urgent, דחוף, available, פנוי, מתי אתה פנוי? When are you available? Falling apart, מתפרק, stuck, תקוע, etc. And here we have some phone numbers and what terms are that go along with them for emergencies. חברת החשמל, the electric company, מכבי אש, the fire department or the fire engine. הצלה, הצלה, משטרה. Okay, and there, that's the end of the visual presentation. Like I said, this you will find in the link you'll get by email. So now I will stop the screen share and I'm going to open up the questions via the Q&A. If you have any questions for me about this lesson, about words from this lesson, about structures from this lesson, then feel free to ask in the Q&A and I'll do my best to get back to everybody. Okay. Oh, okay. Why is it lo tzarich instead of ani lo tzarich or אנחנו לא צריכים? Lo tzarich is kind of like an abbreviation. Instead of saying the long אנחנו לא צריכים את זה, we don't need it, somebody could simply say lo tzarich את זה. We don't, literally it's not needed because tzarich isn't really a verb. We use it as a verb in modern Hebrew, but really it's not a verb. So lo tzarich, it gets special treatment. So we can say lo tzarich, it's unnecessary. Or tzarich, it is necessary. When do you say gam and when gamkin? Okay, so gamkin is it's kind of slangy. It's not necessary to say gamkin. It's gam is enough. And gamkin is not used so much as it used to be. It used to be years ago, people would say gamkin more often. Today, it's not really used. When I said there's blockage in the sink, how would you say the sink is blocked? Kior satum, you could say that as well. Satum. I'm going to write it over here. Hakior satum. And hakior satum is less common. People usually say yesh stima, there's blockage. Just like we say in English, the sink is clogged. We don't usually say there's a clog or blockage in the sink. Isn't gamarnu present tense? Why not use future tense? Gamarnu means we have finished. It's actually past tense. The nu at the end is like anachnu. It tells you that it's past tense. Gamarnu. We're done. We have finished. That's what it means. Hebrew uses a lot of past tense in slang, like to say that we're out of here, like we were hanging out and now we're leaving. Hebrew speakers will say hayinu po, we were here, or zaznu, we've moved, meaning we're already moving out of here. It's just a way of, it's an expression. So it's a figure of speech. Confusing when to use the behakol, but chatzi yom, not hayom. Okay, in hakol, well, behakol, really it should be bakol, but people typically say behakol. Hu mitapel behakol. Really it should be hu mitapel bakol, but mitapel behakol is what most people say. Ha means the, chatzi yom is half a day, chatzi hayom is half of the day, etc. Okay. But he did not clear the sink blockage and charge the. No, he did clear the sink blockage. He just happened to fix some other things along the way. Yes, Bahun Nur. That's the Arabic. Nur means light in Arabic. There will not be a copy of the PowerPoint, but you will get a link to Quizlet, which reviews this material with an audio recording, with audio recordings. Yeah, לבצע העברה. That's last week's material. יפה. Okay, somebody asked about gamarnu versus siyamnu. Okay, this is a little bit of a sensitive, slightly sensitive topic because gamanu has a sexual connotation. Ligmor has a sexual connotation, but gamarnu is, people could say gamarnu, siyamnu interchangeably. Lisayem means to finish without any frills. So he could either say gamarnu or siyamnu. When would you say pakuk? Pakuk, you could also say that kio pakuk, it's plugged. Pakuk is plugged. So pakuk is usually refers to traffic, like Kvish Ayalon Pakuk. The Ayalon Road highway is plugged, so to speak, pakuk, because a pakak is a plug. Couldn't read the word for exterminator. Don't worry, you'll have a link. You'll be able to read everything later on. To cry out, litzok. Yeah, if you haven't received last week's link yet, then write to Nefesh B'Nefesh. What was the end of the story? You mean, does she pay him the 1,000 shekels or not? That I'll leave to your imagination. When I use the past tense, is it necessary to use the pronoun? Yefeh. It depends. In the first and second person, ani, anachnu, it's that's the first person. The second person, ata, atem, aten. The I, we, and all the yous, it's not necessary to use a pronoun. For example, siyamti, I've finished, or siyamnu, or gamarnu, those are both in the first person. It's not necessary to say ani siyamti, anachnu siyamnu, or ata siyamta. It's not necessary. You can just say siyamta. But in the third person, hu, he, him, and hen, then yes, it is necessary. Hu siyem, he siyema. Okay. What is Hatzalah? Hatzalah is a volunteer ambulance service, which serves in the United States as well as in Israel, probably other places as well. How can I learn to read Hebrew when there are no vowels to assist in pronunciation? Hebrew is read contextually, so that if you know what the word means, and you can kind of figure out from the context how to pronounce it. What is the difference between lehit kasher and letzaltzel? Yafeh. Okay, so lehit kasher is what people normally say to call. Letzaltzel is a little bit of an older word. People also say letalpen or letalfen, which means to phone, but that's also more rare. People don't say letzaltzel so much anymore. How do I find the daily dose of Hebrew? Okay, go to ulpan.com and click on Learn for Free, and that'll take you to the daily dose of Hebrew. Is there a more advanced lesson for technicalities? No, there's 2 levels right now of beginners and intermediate. How do you say to take care of? That's litapel or litapel be. Litapel be. When do you use or not use a pronoun before past tense? I think we did this. Is there a chart for medicine terms? The 5th webinar in this series, this is the 3rd. The 5th webinar, which is in 2 weeks, is about the medical system. So there I'll include a glossary of some medical terms. Is yachol treated the same way as tzarich? Okay, so yachol is not in the same way as we don't need to say we or I. Like lo tzarich, it's unnecessary. You wouldn't say lo yachol. There you'd have to use ani or anachnu. Ani lo yachol. In slang, yes. Dropping it off, just like I could say lo rotze, I don't want, where technically ani should be there, but I can drop it off in slang. Lo rotze, I don't want. I can say also lo yachol, I can't, but really it should be there. Ani should be there. Yeah. Spelling cable in Hebrew, kabed, kaf bet lamed. Okay. And when would you use gamarnu versus siyamnu? Gamarnu you'd use only in the past tense, and I wouldn't use it more often than this context, just in case. Otherwise, just use siyamnu. Why don't we say he drills a hole? Because that's the way Hebrew works. Hebrew says literally, he drills for me a hole in the head. That's just the convention in Hebrew. Just like my head hurts me. We don't say in English, my head to me hurts. It just doesn't work. It's just English's convention doesn't work that way, but Hebrews does. Okay. The last emergency number had no translation. Let's see this. Oh, the last emergency number, Hatzalah. Okay, that's Hatzalah means it's the organization. Hatzalah means salvation, really. Okay. Let's see. Any more questions? One more question. Oh, לטפל, לתקן. יפה. Okay, לטפל is first of all, it's with a tet. לטפל is to take care of versus לתקן, which means to fix. It's two different words. Okay, and Brian Ali, there are 5 sessions. Okay, okay, לתפל related to caregiver. Yes, לתפל means to take care of. So מטפל or מטפלת is a caregiver or babysitter as well, or a therapist. Okay, that's all. I'm going to hand this over now to Abby at Nefesh B'Nefesh. תודה רבה לכם. יהיה לכם המשך יום טוב, ערב טוב. Okay.
Hi. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you, Ami. And again, you guys will be receiving a recording of this in an email, so hold tight. We'll be sending that out shortly. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Recording and review materials.
Yes, exactly. Bye.
Bye.